My name is Enji Chimisi, and I am into cloud development. I'm into cloud development. Or I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but at least I would always love to share everything that I know about cloud with you in some sessions. So today we're going to look at the first session, which is an introduction to cloud computing using the Google Cloud platform. So today's section is basically going to be an introduction to cloud computing. So we're not really going to focus on Google Cloud for now, but general cloud computing. Okay. So by the end of this lesson, you would have learned a lot of things about cloud. Which, if you want to transition, I'm telling you, you would be turning your life around. Many people are making it in the cloud industry. It's an industry that is booming, and as it stands now, a lot of organizations are, they are looking for people who are experts using cloud technologies. So if you will stick with me to the end, and then in our follow-up sessions, I bet you are going to be ready for the market, and you'll be able to transform your career. All right. So like I said, my name is Enju Chumisi, and that is my handle, Angelo the Man, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram as well. On LinkedIn, on Twitter, and on Instagram, you can find me at Angelo the Man. So that is it for me. So by the end of this lesson, these are what we are going to look at. Very few. By 8 o'clock, we should be done. I'm going to look at what cloud computing is. And before lest I forget, as I go on with the presentation, if you have any question to ask, just raise your hands. Just raise your hands in the chat box, and then Prince will alert me. Also, if you have anything to comment and you can't probably raise your hand, just type it in the comment section. Prince will alert me. Okay. Yes. So we're going to look at what cloud computing is, and why do we even need cloud computing? What at all is cloud computing? Why is it making so much headlines? We're going to look at examples of cloud service providers, as you can see there. We're also going to look at common cloud services which are available. We're also going to look at types of cloud computing, so that when you are getting yourself into it, you know exactly where you are going. Sometimes you waste so much time looking around. Waste so much time looking around. Though it is very good, but if you know a clear path to where you are going, it makes you go faster. We're going to look at cloud computing possibilities. We're going to look at benefits of cloud computing, and finally, we just give a brief overview of the Google Cloud platform. That is the platform we're going to use, the Google Cloud platform. You give a very brief introductory to it, then we will get going. You are all once again welcome. This event is made possible by the Google Developer Students Club at PNUST, and my boss is here with me, Prince. You can see him, and you can see him in his icon. That's the GDSC lead for PNUST this year, and he's really doing a wonderful job. Prince, kudos to you. Right. So let's jump right in. So we're going to look at what cloud computing is. I just took this shot from Google. When you enter cloud computing into Google, this is what you're going to receive. The practice of using a network of remote servers hosted on the internet to store, manage, and process data, rather than local server or a personal computer. So the word cloud computing is synonymous to the internet. Okay, just that with the internet you are going to get information from someone else's machine. But with cloud computing, what you are doing is you are basically using someone else's machine. Though you are on your machine, but everything that you are using is on someone else's machine. I don't know if you understand. So for instance, you want to use Visual Studio Code. You are downloading stuff. You are uploading stuff. You are not, though you are on your personal computer, but all the resources that you are using are not going to be stored on your personal computer. It's going to be more like a virtual computer that you are using. That is basically what cloud computing is about. So it's used to store, to manage, to process data, like the definition says, rather than the local server or a personal computer. So, when you visit companies, when you are starting a company, the first thing you are going to think about is your data, because data is what we use to make business decisions. So the more data a business has, the more precise decisions the business is liable to make. So you go to an organization, and the first thing that they'll think about is going to buy something we call a server, a physical server, so that they'll be able to host all their equipment on the server, right? But with cloud computing, it's changing and revolutionizing all that industry. And what we are seeing is that instead of going to buy these data centers, instead of going to buy all this hardware, the hard disks that you are going to buy and all that, don't do it. Just go to the cloud, and you will have everything that you need. That is what we are seeing with cloud computing. So you can see where the concept is coming from, and it is a very booming industry that we should all get a piece of the cake from. So why cloud computing? Now, cloud computing currently has a market share of $500 billion, right? And it is still growing, by the way. Now, for us to understand cloud computing, we need to understand what we call on-premise. So, like you can see in the picture over there, this is what I was talking about: a data center, a server. You see, these things you would normally see in a company that is quite huge, maybe a company like Vodafone, a company like MTN, or a company like Stanchart, Stanbic Bank. You know, those large companies. They are the ones whom you would normally see these kind of things over there. We call it on-premise. So what happens is they go and buy servers. They go and buy a lot of servers. A server is a machine, okay? Go and buy servers, and then they install what we call a server software on the machine, and that is what they are using. And these machines are in the company. Mostly they are at the basement of the companies, right? The large companies that want to use it, these machines are at their basement, and they have people who regularly check on these machines. We have people they call maintenance officers. We have IT technicians. They normally check on this data, these servers, to make sure that it is not spoiled, to make sure that information is not lost. So manually, every single day, they have to go there and check if something is spoiled, if a wire is broken. Because any small thing that will happen to these data centers is going to affect all the data that the company is having. So that's what we call on-premise. Now, for us to understand cloud computing very well, we need to understand what we mean by on-premise, as we see here. So what at all is on-premise? I mean, what happens when a company decides to host everything in the house? When I say decide to host everything in the house, all their code base, all their database, all their data from their customers, all the calls that they've made, they are hosting all of them in the data center in the company. What would this thing lead to? So we have some points on our right hand side. It means that the company would have to employ more IT staff. You understand? Because these data racks, these server machines and all that, because they are physical machines, they are liable to break. And when they get broken, you need to have experts around who are ready to fix them. When a wire is torn, when a wire is rusted, you need to have people around. When it goes down at the moment, you need to have people around to fix it. So you are constantly hiring IT staff. The second thing is that it costs a lot for you to maintain these data centers. It costs a lot. The next one is that it's capital intensive. When I say capital expensive, when I say capital expensive, what I mean is it costs a lot to buy this service, right? It costs a lot to buy them, and to even set it up, it's a problem. It's a lot of money, and because of that, smaller companies, like maybe if any one of us is trying to start a business, we will not be able to afford to buy these things because we don't have the capital yet. Even the larger companies struggle getting capital to get this stuff. The next point is that training for people to be able to use this thing is very difficult because the person has to be a skilled individual. So because of that, if someone decides to become a skilled individual, the person takes a very high salary because he knows that the work at hand is very huge, and that brings a lot of cost to companies. Now it becomes difficult to also deploy and manage resources. So for instance, let's say you're working at a company that uses this physical service. What happens is that if a new change is made in the code, someone will have to go manually to the data center to go and update the service. Understand? So it takes a while for your deployments to actually go to the market. That is why we have cloud computing to solve this. When you're having a cloud computing resource, what happens is that you are going to hire less IT staff because whatever you are going to do is in the software. So you don't need a lot of people moving around, carrying things around and all that. It is easy to maintain because the cloud service provider, what we call the cloud service provider, will be the one doing all the job for you. So you will just sit at one place and you'll be managing everything. And then the next one is that it is operational expensive. What I mean by operational expensive is that you pay as you use. Okay, you are only paying for what you are using. You are not paying any upfront cost. You are paying for what you are using. And then training, and then faster development, faster deployment of resources. As you can testify, the moment you write the code, you are able to push it, and the deployments are done, and your changes are seen, are effected on your hardware. Right. So I believe we all get it up to this point. I would need some feedback because I'm not able to view the audience. I would need some feedback. I believe we are all getting it up to this point.
Yes.
All right, sure. Thank you very much. So we're going to look at examples of cloud service providers. So as we're talking about the cloud, so there are some people who make using the cloud accessible. They are called cloud service providers. So the popular ones you might have heard of is AWS. AWS is from Amazon. It's called Amazon Web Services. Then we have our Google Cloud Platform. Microsoft also has one they call Microsoft Azure. We have DigitalOcean. You've been seeing their adverts on YouTube mostly. We have Oracle Cloud, and the L over there stands for Linode. Linode is also a cloud service provider. But of all these six, in fact, there are others. We have IBM, we have Alibaba, and all those. They all have their cloud services. But of this, the largest in the industry are AWS, Google Cloud Platform, and then Microsoft Azure. So we are going to look at the common cloud services. I mean, these cloud companies, what at all do they do? What infrastructure do they provide? All right. So the first thing we would look at is what we call compute. Okay, what we call compute. Now, just follow me. Okay, you'll be able to understand what's going on here. When we say compute, compute simply means having a virtual computer that can run application, programs, and code. So what happens is that when you open your cloud platform, let's say Google Cloud Platform, then you will tell Google that you want them to give you a computer. So when you're telling them to give you a computer, Google will ask you, what is the hard drive that you want for the computer? What is the RAM size that you want for the computer? What is the storage that you want for the computer? What operating system should the computer run? You understand? So Google will give you all of these, and then they'll just give you a key and a password. Just like you log into your personal computer, your local computer. But this time around, you're using your local computer to log in into what we call a virtual computer. So Google has given you a virtual computer. It has given you a computer that you are going to use. So you are not going to manage the hard disk, whether your hard disk spoils or not. You see, on your personal computer, your hard disk can spoil, but on that one, your hard disk space is never going to spoil. That's what happens. Even if the particular hard disk that your programs are on, it gets spoiled, they have something we call geo redundancy. What that means is that the data that you are using, it has been duplicated, so that if one physical hardware spoils, the other one. So this one is also like you are renting virtual hard drive that can store files. So let's say you are a website developer, right? Then you go and hire a storage on, let's say, Google Cloud Platform, so that when your customers log in, their login data is stored over there. So that when a customer wants to retrieve anything, you just go and fetch the data from Google, and then you give it back to your customer. You have networking. That is having a virtual network to be able to define internet connections and solutions. With this one, what happens is you are becoming a security guard. I mean, Google is giving you the chance to allow people to access your data, or the chance to block people from accessing your data. Right? This is a very, very secure method. Then we also have something we call databases, meaning you're having a virtual database for storing data for common web applications. It works hand in hand with the storage services that